that it is streaming. One, two, three.
Testing, testing.
One, two, three.
Testing, testing.
Okay, that works. Get back to over here. All right, we're here with Jedi Wes, and Jedi Wes, how is your Star Wars game going?
Uh, getting ready to wrap probably here. Well, the latest campaign's getting ready to wrap here in probably the next month or so.
So you're
They're
getting
they're
to the big finale. You're going
they're
to. Have you separated the party a million ways, like in the movies? What are you doing
no,
to as you're wrapping things up?
not really. They are getting ready to go back to one of the main characters' home planets to stop a wedding and generally cause a lot of trouble for the Empire.
Ah, so are they going to be having to deal with it in the air, doing starship combat as well, or is this just going to be
Uh,
a ground infiltration to stop the wedding? How
not
complex are you making
really,
this?
not really any pilots in the party. So it'd be kind of a jerk move if I put a lot of space combat in there. Um, but they've actually got their contribution rank up for the rebellion fairly high, so they could possibly cash in a contribution rank to get some major support uh, for their uh, for their final mission. Mostly they're looking at probably ground infiltration. One of the characters has a sister. Uh, both of them are royalty basically, and the Imperial Moth has uh, is basically kind of like strong arming the younger sister into marrying him, so that he can gain some extra power.
Is a member of the couple in love with one of the PCs,
No,
or
it's the sister. It's
oh,
the um, the sister's the one being forced to marry, and then another player is playing the other sister.
okay?
So,
So it's got the nice family connection.
yep.
So for people who are new to Age of Rebellion, can you fill them in on what contribution means as far as the game?
Okay. In each iteration of the Fantasy Flight Star Wars, there's three separate mechanics, depending on which type of game you want to run. In Edge of the Empire, there's obligation, which represents debts, favors, things like that that can be called in by people. Then in Force and Destiny, you have morality, which is basically how light side or dark side are you going. And then Age of Rebellion, you have duty, um, which is a measure of kind of how much are you contributing to the Rebel Alliance as a group. So, like some of the little different things is like with morality is really just player based. It's not really group based. Morality is the out of all three mechanics, morality is the only one that affects an individual player, and that's it. It doesn't affect the group really,
Hmm.
other than guilt by association. So if you have a really high morality score, you're a really light side person. So people who use the dark side can probably sense you out easier, and they're going to want to take you out. Whereas on the opposite end of the scale, if you're really dark side, then you start meeting up with Jedi and other people like that. They probably aren't going to want to have a lot to do with you. But that only affects one specific character really. There's a couple other mechanical things about how you can spend force points, but again, really, it's only only the that individual character. Uh, Other people may view their friends and allies with a little bit of trepidation, depending on what end of the scale they fall on
So
as well.
you're talking contribution score. What are some of the things
Right.
that you can get with your contribution score?
You can get equipment. Each individual PC can cash it in. Well, you cash it in as a group. When you get to, I was going to talk about contribution last. So
Okay.
that's morality. Then you've got obligation. Obligation is a group thing. So you have an individual obligation score, and then the GM takes that score and adds it to everyone else's. If the total group obligation goes over 100, you can't spend XP to advance your character. You are stuck at whatever level uh, that you are. I mean, you can earn as much XP as the GM gives you. You just can't spend it to increase skills or buy new talents or things like that. Duty's kind of the opposite. Duty, you're trying to build it up. Obligation, you're trying to pull it down as much as you can. Duty, you're trying to build it up. So once you hit 100, once the group as a whole hits 100, then you can cash it in. You go up one rank. It's a scale from 0 to 10. You go up one rank, contribution rank level, and you can trade that in to the Rebel Alliance for each person can pick a piece of gear that is less than, it's a certain credit limit, but also the rarity of the item is equal up to 3 plus your contribution rank. So the first time you rank 0, you're not going to be able to trade anything in. Once you hit 1, you could get a piece of gear, whatever. I can't remember what the exact credit limit is, but you get a piece of gear that's of a rarity 4 or less. You go up to 2, you can get a 5 or less, that sort of thing. You can trade it in as a group, trade it in and get a squadron of fighters. So if you wanted to have your game go in that route to where you become the fighter squadron, and you basically have your own specialized ships that you're tinkering with all the time, you could trade it in and basically get, each character gets a Y-wing or an X-wing, something like that. That's usually like a big one-time thing. The other thing you can do is trade it in and get a strategic asset. Basically, you call in a favor, and Akbar shows up with home 1.
Is that how you would describe what happens at the end? Spoilers a little bit in Rogue One.
Alert. Possibly. I think that was just more plot device. If you definitely could have that happen. You could have the players in mid game, because news gets back to the rebellion that. Well, yeah, I could totally see that. Yeah. So they get somehow the message goes out that they've gone there, and mechanically the player characters say, we want to trade this in for aid, and so the GM said, okay. Radis shows up with the cruiser, and you're not getting out alive, but hey, you did something really cool. This is the end of the campaign, boys and girls.
Is there a mechanic in there using duty, morality, and all that to explain the Death Star showing up at the end of the movie? What would you? How would you? What would have to work for you to pull that up to make that as a consequence?
That's either the game master flipping a destiny point or just being a jerk.
Just one destiny point.
Like I said, the game master being a jerk. He's giving you a little bit back because he's being a jerk.
It makes me want to run some Star Wars this spring. So, there's a whole lot of supplements. Mm-hmm. You probably know how many there are, right?
Yeah, I've got them all. Yeah, I've got all of them. I should have counted them up before we started, but I have every single core book, splat book, all that so far.
So, for a GM getting into this, of course they need the core book. I recommend a GM screen, just because that's the kind of guy I am. They need the dice. What splat books does a starting GM need going into this game, or a new player going into this? What do you recommend that they start looking at?
because there's so many books at this point. Um, I've got friends who are GMs that are basically they're purist core rule book only, and that's it. That's all they want to play. They don't want to see anything else. Core rule book, and that's it. Um, I'm more flexible. Uh, Basically, the thing I would get a core rule book and play that until you get the all the you know all the basics down. Um, as far as the supplements, what kind of game you want to run? Are you it really boils down to which what type of game are you running? Are you running more of an Edge of the Empire game? Do you have a lot of players that like to be mercenary soldiers or smugglers or whatever? You might want to pick up those books because they have not only more careers and more equipment for the players, but it also has a huge section of modular encounters that you can uh, bash up and modify. But it also has tips on, hey, if the majority of your players are, each one are this type of career. Most of them are mercenary soldiers or bounty hunters or colonists. Here's how you really, you know, they're playing that career for a reason, and here's how you can use that career and really write a good story up for that type of game. Same thing goes for Age of Rebellion. Do you have a player who's wanting to be a diplomat or a sharpshooter or a spy? Well, you get that book and it gives you tips on how to. And there's probably a lot of crossover because your diplomats are going to be similar to colonist politicos. Um, so
As a GM, what do you recommend that is most useful for them?
the again core rule book for whichever type of game you're wanting to run. If you wanting to do uh, if you're wanting to do Edge of the Empire, which is your people who living on the fringes, just trying to make it, think Firefly, think Han Solo and Luke in Episode 4. Do you want to run that type of game, or do you want to run an Age of Rebellion game where you're very much in the Episode 5 um, military campaign type? A lot of people compare Force and Destiny to Return of the Jedi. I don't, because Return of the Jedi to me is still very much, it's a mishmash of everything, but it's still mostly Age of Rebellion because they're all Rebel Alliance operatives and generals doing things. Um, Force and Destiny, I feel like, is to me is this is the dark. That's your Dark Times campaign setting. You're mostly Force users. You're trying to avoid detection. There's the possibility that an Inquisitor or something could pop up and ruin your day. So there's all that. As far again, core rulebook for whichever system, GM screen. I personally don't roll behind a screen at all uh, for this game because I like the narrative dice system. I don't roll behind the screen.
Hmm.
I have it folded up, sitting next to me, and if I need to, it has all the charts. I mean, it has all your tables that your most reference tables.
Yeah, that's why I
So,
like it.
okay, here, pick it up. Okay, and you're done. Not sitting there flipping through page 200 and what. So, yeah, GM
78
screen.
bookmarks in your core rulebook.
Yep. So both of those, and then again, whatever. Get an idea of what kind of campaign the guys are wanting to play. I mean, if they're wanting to play bounty hunters, pick up the bounty hunter book because that's going to have all your information on how to run a bounty hunter campaign. Well, not really. It's going to have a lot of useful tips on how to run a bounty hunter campaign and how do you. I mean, it doesn't have a flat out. It has a table for kind of like how much a person they should make, how much they should make on different types of bounties, but it's more just a guideline. Is it a minor, major, or what type of target? Minor, major, legendary. You go from there, and then it gives you a range of this many credits to this many credits, and then you can adjust accordingly depending on how difficult you think it's going to be. Just a good ballpark figure, things like that.
Hmm. So, at what point do you need to start breaking into the supplements? At what point of being a player of Edge of
Once
the Empire or Age of Rebellion that you start going, no disintegrations is something that I need?
Uh, honestly, once you get the basics down, then decide where you want to take your for the GM where you want to take your story, for the players where you want to take your character. Um, I've played with GMs that are like, I don't care what supplements you have, use them, whatever, just let me read over them. I've also played with GMs who are like, core rulebook only, and that's it. That's all you get.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I can go either way depending on how it is. Because I've had people complain, well, there's just so much out there. I was like, okay, fine, we're just gonna do core rulebook only, and that's it. That way, that nobody has to make any decisions. Just core rulebook only, and we're good.
When I did Threat Detected, I would always bring my Saga library to the thing, so there was the constance of people going over and checking things in with the book. It was almost like with the lending library during the games and things.
Yeah,
Do you do that with your book? Do you bring all of your supplements to the game table?
usually no. I bring the books that I need. If I'm uh, running a modular encounter out of one of them, I'll bring that book and my core rule book, and that's it. I actually have one guy that plays in a lot of my games. He literally brings a duffel bag with every single book he owns.
That bag's gonna rip soon.
It's a really big, heavy duffel bag. I think the bindings are going to come off the books before the duffel bag tears. But again, he doesn't own every single supplement. He owns a very large majority of them, but not every single one. So, but yeah, again, I think the bindings will come off the book before the duffel bag tears up, because it looks like a fairly old, like 70s or 80s duffel bag, when one of the they built to last.
Ah, it's going to last a while.
Yep.
How about if you are wanting to do more force sensitive type of characters and things like that, in the way that is handled in Edge of the Empire and Age of Rebellion, are they handled in the supplements in different ways? Do they have their own
Um,
supplements for that?
yeah, there's four four supplements, I think. Three or four supplements, career supplement books for Force and Destiny. And then they have one adventure, a second one getting ready to come out, and then they have a third or another supplement called Nexus of Power, which is all about um, different different planets that are, have either Force Virgins or are notable for different Force traditions.
My favorite thing that I saw that they've come out with is the books about the planets, the Now Hutta ones,
Lords of
the
Nalhutta and
yes,
Lords of
the
Nalhutta and
Corellia
yes,
system. I've been waiting for information on those for a very long
yeah.
time.
Lords
Uh,
of Nalhutta is a cool one. Sons of Fortune, which is the Corellian source book's really neat. There's a really good one too for Age of Rebellion called Strongholds of Resistance, which details different planet, like Chandrila and things like planets that are notable members of the Rebel Alliance. And also, it has a lot of rules on, okay, here's just how a rebel base is usually organized.
hmm
So
Which reminds me of the Force Strongholds and Fortress Hideouts and Strongholds book that Sterling Hershey did for the D6 Star Wars, which is something that I use for no matter what Star Wars game I run. It's filled
yeah,
with great ideas.
I think Sterling worked on Strongholds of Resistance as well. So there may be some there may he may have already just updated some of the information for that too. So
Okay, the volcano base. What page do I have that on there? What did I have to stop Imperial walkers at the doors? Yes, I use this. Okay. And,
always fun, always fun.
and how about the adventures? Do you recommend that the new GMs go with the adventures like Katrina's really cool one that she did for Age of Rebellion? Uh, the Artis 4, I believe it was.
Assault on Arda
Yeah.
one, yeah. It's kind of cool because it has the first iteration of your mass combat rules in it. I think there's a second book. I think it's the one for Commodores. It has the more detailed version of the mass combat rules in it. But that adventure specifically not just has the rules for mass combat, it actually, the whole adventure, like sections of it, have the mass combat. And it explains it as you're playing the game. This is how you run it. Roll, you make your mass combat check, and if these things, if you get, advantage or uh, threat or despair and triumph, these sort of things can happen. Reinforcements arrive, or there's a horrible collapse of cliffside, and you're cut off, and things like that.
Which goes to the wild interpretation possibilities that is the heart of this game and things.
Yep.
How how high is the sky as far as this is concerned? As far as you're concerned, is there a too far with something being an advantage? Is there something being too far as for a despair?
You use the tables in the books as a guideline. Um, but again, I always default to rule of cool.
Mm-hmm.
If it's something that I like, if I think it's within reason within the Star Wars universe, and you roll a triumph, well, it's probably going to happen.
And are you a GM who I think we've been down this road before that lets the players come up with the advantages and the triumphs, and you handle the despairs and the
I let
threats?
them I let them suggest. I mean, you're the final GM is the final arbiter of what happens. So I usually let them make suggestions. Um, if they're rolling, I'll let them make suggestions as to what the advantage and triumphs come to, and I use the threats and despairs. If I'm making a check for an NPC, then I'll let them make suggestions for the threat and despair, and I handle the. But again, I'm the final. You're the GM, you're the final arbiter, so sometimes they'll come up with some crazy stuff, and you're just like, no.
What are some of the no's that you've done?
uh, Not personally, but I've actually listened to some live play ones, and I've seen, and it's like, I want to have the guy making a shot with a holdout blaster. He's like, I want to blow up and do a ton of damage to him. It's like, no. You're basically saying that a Derringer is going to explode with the same force as like 3 grenades. That's no.
What do you
That's
hit that explodes that has the effect of three
again,
grenades?
yeah. If it's a rocket launcher and he rolls a despair, yeah, it explodes and kills a bunch of people, possibly. But not the little pea shooter. No.
How are the aliens distributed throughout the supplements?
Usually, each core book usually has, I think, 6 to 8. Each supplement usually has 3, and again, there's some crossover because the the Gand show up in one of the Gand show up in the core book for Edge of the Empire, but then they're reprinted in one of the supplements for Force and Destiny.
Mm.
Um, they're basically so that someone who only wants to play Force and Destiny doesn't have to go and buy all the stuff for Edge. So
For your games, do you only go with a single era, single theme, or do you have the crossovers and use everything?
depends on what I'm wanting to do with the story. The last campaign, the first big campaign that I started, Edge of the Empire was the only book out, so it was strictly Edge. As Age of Rebellion came out, started allowing that, and then when the Force and Destiny beta dropped from Gen Con that year, I allowed people to start dipping into that as well. The second big campaign that I ran, uh, all 3 of the core rulebooks are out, and that's the current campaign I'm running. And I just was like, okay, free for all. What do you want to play? Um, one of the newest campaign ideas I have, I'm seriously considering Edge of the Empire only to start out with, just because the way I want the tone of the game I want to set.
Go ahead.
So I may get some pushback from some people, but I'm just gonna be like, listen, this is how it has to be, because This is the tone. This is the tone I'm setting with the story.
Mm-hmm. And you got to establish first of all at the beginning what the tone of the story is going to be, so you don't
Yeah,
have chaos all over the place
yeah.
that's never going to end.
Yeah, I've told people about. I think I've told several people about this, but the new idea I have is it's gonna. I want No Disintegrations just came out. I've been thinking about running a bounty hunter game for 3 months at least, making notes and things like that, coming up with some ideas. So um, I think it's going to be a bounty hunter game, and it's going to be Edge of the Empire, and you can play whatever career you want to out of Edge of the Empire. Just know you're going to be, to begin with, this is what you're doing, because you have fallen on really bad times, and you got to make money and put food on the table somehow.
Any inspiration from bounty hunters otherwise, like Hurley from Firefly and things like that?
There might be some NPCs pop up like that. The biggest, piece of inspiration I'm stealing from is the sci-fi show Killjoys,
Okay.
because obligation is going to be their main mechanic that they're going to have for doing things. But I'm also going to take and strip down the duty mechanic somewhat, pare it down to not as many levels. Um, because the idea I have for a bounty hunters guild is you have a rank within that, and that rank determines what types of bounties you can take.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a low level, they're giving you the crap work. As you build up and get your reputation higher, then you start being able to take on, okay, you can take that, you can take this bounty that's going to pay you, nearly half a million credits.
Until then, you get to go after guys who had space fender vendors with governors' daughters'
Yep.
cars or
Yep. Or
spaceships.
well, the other thing that's kind of neat is Star Wars bounty hunters aren't just about capturing people. Sometimes they're just the intergalactic repo men. It's like this person stole this, or my payments haven't been made on this and such item. I either want it back or I want my money, and they'll put a bounty out on the, so then that person gets a cut. So it's okay. We're going to go over here and repo the Millennium Falcon because Han Solo missed his payment to the bank.
That scene would never happen in the movie, would it?
It would probably end very badly for the PCs if it did. I mean, we all saw what he did to dude in the bar, and and we all saw what happened to the stormtroopers when they came up, trying to knock on the door in Empire. So
So, what if you're doing a game where they're bopping heads, encountering canon characters like Ray and friends
uh,
and Finn encounter Han and Chewie in Episode 7? How do you handle that to keep it where Han and Chewie are not completely overshadowing the
the
your
PCs
starting PCs?
and vice versa. Um, this depends on the story. I've had things in the past, where you know case in point, me and GM Dave wrote a module for uh, Gamer Nation Con Reward called "The Rest of the Story," and in it, the players are members of a rebellion squadron, and they at one point they get off the planet Hoth. They're trying to, well, spoilers for the scenario if you haven't played it. They get off the planet and have to make a run for the asteroid field because their hyperdrive has been sabotaged by Imperial troops, and so they get to the thing. They have, the mechanic can go outside, fix the hyperdrive, and as he's finishing that job up, they hear a roar, and they see a YT-1300 come flying up out of one of the asteroid crevices, and then here comes the Exogorth after it. So I mean, I throw little moments like that in. I don't throw in the, you know, you save Han Solo's life. Because, I haven't done that yet. Anyway,
Or it's not just you encounter Han in this bar fight.
yeah, or yeah, something like that. Fight breaks out and yeah, you see you see Han and Chewie over there in the corner, either occasionally knocking people about or just sitting there watching the chaos. Because really, who's gonna go pick a fight with a guy sitting with a Wookiee with a giant bowcaster? I mean, I wouldn't. You know, sounds like a good way to have a very slow and painful death.
Slow death. Once your arm is ripped off.
Well, yeah, you go into shock, but still, it might take a while for you to bleed out.
So, what products coming out from Fantasy Flight for the RPG Star Wars are you most excited about?
Ghosts of Dathomir is coming out, which is their new big um, uh, module, hardbound module. And I think they announced. Let me look at something real quick. I think they announced another one. Um, well, I think Ghost of Dathomir was one of the last ones announced. Where did the release schedule go? I can't find it.
Have there been more products announced for their Episode 7 line?
No, that's kind of surprising. Uh, there was a two years ago at Gen Con. At the very end of the thing, Christian put up, the Force Awakens logos and says, and there's this, which we can't talk about. And because Episode 7 hadn't come out yet. So, and then last year, I think, I don't remember anybody saying that anything was mentioned. The beginner's game has come out, which the really neat thing about it is it's got the newest updated galaxy map in it, full size, poster size galaxy map, which is kind of cool. I mean, I would just pretty much pay $30 for that. Plus, I mean, it's got a full adventure and everything in it. So
Yeah, and more dice.
and more dice. Yeah, I'm starting to lose dice. They're starting to disappear out of the bags. I don't know if it's just people mixing them in with their own or going in the floor and then getting eaten by the black hole that every friendly local gaming store seems to have.
Is the core
But
book out yet for the Episode 7?
no, there's not been a core book. There's only the 3 core books. There's the uh, uh, Edge of the Empire, Age of Rebellion, and Force and Destiny. I don't think there's going to be another big core book. I think if anything, they're going to do everything else past this is probably going to be supplements. It'd be interesting to see if they do a Episode 7 supplement and see if they stat any of the other main characters out. Because as of right now, the only main character that is statted out from any of the films is Lando Calrissian. He is in the Jewel. I think he's in the Jewel of Yavin, Edge of the Empire module, and he is literally the only main named character that is statted out. None of the others have been.
How does that affect your gaming, or how you feel?
I love that. I ran the Rebellion Day module for our local game store, and in it, one of the premises is that Darth Vader is, you get a call. Darth Vader's ship has just come out of hyperspace, and then through the game as the PCs are trying to complete their mission is Lord Vader's shuttle has just left the Executor. Lord Vader's shuttle will be landing in this many minutes. Yeah, and then finally, Lord Vader's shuttle has landed on the landing platform. He has disembarked and is heading towards the facility. There and it actually just has just a little snippet sidebar that says, if any of the PCs want to attack Darth Vader, you simply describe their death in whatever way you deem as appropriate.
It's just like Cthulhu.
Because it is Darth Vader. What do people? And I actually had somebody argue with me. It's like, why can't I fight Darth Vader? And I'm like, if you had the Guardian signature ability to hold him up for 3 rounds, then I sure, go ahead, activate that. 3 rounds later, you die. Because at this, and then he wanted to argue a little bit, and then finally when Rogue One came out, I was like, "Did you watch Rogue One?" He's like, "Yeah." I said, you saw the ending, right?" "Yeah." It's like, that's why you don't kill Darth Vader. Because you are that rebel. You literally, your character may be really awesome in game, terms of the game and fighting stormtroopers, but you are still just a rebel soldier. And this is what happens to rebel soldiers that fight Darth Vader.
End of story.
Your name is not Luke Skywalker. You die horribly. I'll give you a heroic death, but you're still going to die horribly. That was one of the things that kind of bugged me about the old, West End game supplements is they had the character statted, and for the most part, it would take PCs a long time to get to the level where they could consistently take on, one of the named characters like Boba Fett or Luke or Han or, Vader or the Emperor. But in D6, there was always that wild die.
Mm-hmm.
And you could have somebody fluke roll and just sit there and just have it explode multiple times. And then it's like, well, I don't care how, amazing you are, that character, that bad guy, that NPC is dead. Dude just maxed out at the wild die 12 times in a row. It's over. There was that fluke. I like the fact that there's no stats, and it's just like, run them. I think actually Sam Witwer on one of the podcasts I was listening to, they were asking him about that, and he's just like, he's Darth Vader. He has whatever the hell I say he has. He does whatever the hell I say he does. That's all that's all I need. Just he's Darth Vader. It's this NPC. This is what they do. I ran an Inquisitor out of the Force and Destiny book. I built an Inquisitor using their rules, and 8 PCs nearly got wiped by 1 Inquisitor.
That sounds about right.
These were high level PCs. Some of them had near 600 XP, earned XP. That's a lot of XP.
Just looking at Star Wars Rebels,
oh yeah,
Inquisitors wiped the floor with them.
Yeah. So I don't feel bad about throwing them, saying it's this character, it's not going to happen. Well, the other thing is, you have to have that buy-in. If you're running a game, I set the expectation ahead of time. This is a canon, if it's a canon game, this is a canon game. I don't, I don't care what you as a player designs you hatch. You are not killing Luke Skywalker and taking his place. You are not going to assassinate Darth Vader or Emperor Palpatine and save the galaxy. It's just not going to happen, because this is going to be a canon game. Now, if I run an alt-U game, or I flat out say the canon's going out the window and it's a sandbox, then you do whatever you want. I'll come up with stats and maybe make you cry later, but you can do whatever you want. But you just set that expectation ahead of time, and you make sure that the players understand that. Again, this is a canon game. Here's stuff that's not going to happen at the table.
And make sure that it's said at the very beginning.
Yes, at the very beginning. I usually put it in. I've actually had people laugh about my games because I gave a 6-page syllabus for the second campaign I ran. 6-page syllabus. Now most of it was only one page was my rules, table rules and things like that. Everything else was character creation stuff. But I did have one section is like this is going to be a canon game, and this is how things are going to run. So plan your character accordingly.
What are some of your table rules for Star Wars?
Uh, it's generally just my GM table rules. You know, rule 0 is we're all here to have fun.
Mm-hmm.
Please do not start a don't start a rules argument or debate in the middle of a combat. One, it bogs down. It basically stops combat. And now if you want to remind me, like say, hey, I thought those guys weren't in cover. I thought these guys were in cover. That's one thing because I'm tracking multiple NPCs. A reminder's fine. But when you're like, no, that's not how that rule works. It's like, well, that's how that rule is going to work for the remainder of this combat. We'll figure it out at the end of the session, and then,
Mm-hmm.
or if you want to look that up, that's fine. I'll move on to something else and we'll come back to it. But don't constant interruptions during an encounter just kind of wear on me
Yeah.
because even though the system is very very streamlined, when you're the games I run, the campaigns I run are at a comic shop, and I kind of have I have a agreement with the shop owner that I can cap it at a certain level, but I really just can't tell people no, you can't play
Mm-hmm.
because I mean he's allowing me to use the shop, and me running the game is boosting his sales, and so I get you tend to get perks from that when you're helping the store owner make money. So there are certain things like that, but um, that's one thing. Don't don't bog down combat by interruptions. My number one rule is just don't be a jerk.
Of course.
Don't don't tell other people how to play their character.
Mm-hmm.
You're here to play your character. Don't tell it. I actually had to put that rule in bold. The first campaign I ran, I had a new player show up, and one of the veteran players at one point he literally took the dice out of the new guy's hands. I mean, no, you don't want to do that, and just break the dice out of his hands. This is what you want to do, and started trying to. And I didn't know it at the time. Somebody told me after the fact, and I was just like, oh man. And I never saw that guy again. He never came back to the shop. Just
Mm-hmm.
gone. Uh, so that's my number one rule is if someone asks you for assistance, provide assistance. But if someone's doing something, don't interrupt them. Don't be a jerk. Don't don't tell them how to run their character.
Follow the Jedi code.
It goes back to GM Dave's rule: don't be a dick.
Mm-hmm.
Be bad. Don't be a dick. So that's another one. That's I have very few table rules. Yeah.
Cool.
So
So, any final words you want to for about the Star Wars RPG you want to talk about right tonight?
not really that I can think of. I think we covered just about everything we were going to.
All right. So I will leave you to watch episode 7 or Rogue One again for the 178th time, and you have a wonderful evening, Jedi Wes.
All right. Thanks. Bye.